What is the movie Sinners about? That is the question that millions of people are looking for online as they look up reviews, look up analysis for the answer. But is it true, as many believe, that Sinners is a nihilistic, postmodern tale about the alienation from family, tradition and religion? This guy certainly thinks so.
And yet, Sammy's dad still wants to receive Sammy home with open arms. There is forgiveness. He just asks Sammy to drop what's left of the guitar and leave the blues music behind. He doesn't have to leave music behind entirely. In fact, there's a wonderful gospel choir in the church singing "This Little Light of Mine" as Sammy arrives. But Sammy says no. He heads out into the far country once again and becomes a successful blues musician. What actually is his hope as a man who has devoted his life to the blues? He leaves his family and the church to pursue what he sees as a higher calling, the blues. And so I can't help but view the ending as a tragedy. But does the film see it as a tragedy, or are we meant to be cheering Sammy on? I don't know.
I decided to comment on the video because I simply stand in stolid disagreement with the conclusion that Sammy went down this morally objectionable path, this misguided path in life, not the proper course in life represented by Christianity. My comment got the following responses. That's right, folks. My take is the best take on the internet. So, if you would like the best take on the internet about Sinners, then watch the rest of this video. My name is Jay, I'm the Occult Observer. Welcome to the channel, and without further ado, let's talk about Sinners. In rejecting Christianity and refusing to put down his guitar, Sammy showed himself to be way more Christian than most Christians are, including his preacher father. He embraced the gift he was given by God and shone his light through his music. As he sings at the end credit scene on a yellow guitar that evokes the sun and his own soul.
Premiumbeat.com.
Jesus, speaking from his own Christ center, says the following: I am the light of the world. Wisdom is knowing that we all have Christ within us, which is our soul and our source of light. And so Sammy shines his little light wherever he goes. Sinners is essentially an Apollonian film. Truth, music, healing, all the domains of the Olympian sun god are key tenets of the movie. As we hear in the prologue of the movie, there are shaman musicians, such as the Irish Fiddle and the West African griots, whose music is so true it can pierce the veil of life and death, enter the spirit world, and heal the community.
There are legends of people with the gift of making music so true it can conjure spirits from the past and the future.
Sammy is essentially an Orpheus-like character. Where Orpheus plays the lyre, Sammy plays the guitar. And where Orpheus used his music to enter the underworld and delight and charm all its denizens, including his king and queen Pluto and Persephone, Sammy's music is so dope, so pure, that he can pierce the astral veil and essentially create a portal for spirits of past and future to come and party alongside Smokestack, Sammy and the rest. Orpheus is said to be the son of Apollo. While the little Orpheus stayed with his mother and ate musons on Mount Parnassus, Apollo, ever fond of his son, descended in his solar chariot and gifted him the golden 7-stringed lyre, which he personally taught him to play. Apollo's parenthood is supposed to be understood metaphorically. Orpheus was, most likely, a person of far remote antiquity, several generations before Homer, who lived and breathed down here on Earth, who had a mother and who had a father, like Jesus. However, like Jesus, Orpheus was no average bloke either. His philosophy has clear Egyptian and Hindi elements, which makes it likely that he was an initiate of the Egyptian mysteries, like Plato and Pythagoras later became. Through his spiritually infused music, this great initiator of the Greek, as esoteric scholar Manly P. Hall calls him, became such a legendary figure that he was celebrated as a divinity centuries before the Christian era. Him being a son of Apollo is to say that he was initiated into the solar logos, that he was operating from the Apollonian principles of truth, beauty, and harmony, principles he shone forth through his magical music. In other words, he embodied solar consciousness. His music itself, though he probably was a real-life bard, can also be understood metaphorically. The ancient Greek lyre generally had 7 strings. To the Greeks, music represented the harmony of the universe. The number 7 was important here because it represented the 7 celestial spheres, which correspond to the 7 classical planets of astrology, the 7 metals in alchemy, and the 7 chakras in Hindu Tantra. Orpheus, then, can be understood to have played the 7 strings of his own being while operating from the solar logos, the great conductor of our inner solar system, our inner lyre, because we are both player and instrument. We may view Sami in a similar light as Orpheus. Sami's guitar is every bit as much a part of him as his heart is. If you study Kabbalah, you will find that the sun god Apollo is the god of Tiphereth, the solar sphere at the center of the Kabbalistic tree of life, which, when placed on the human anatomy, corresponds to the heart and soul. This is the Christ center, hence why the prominent occultist Diane Fortune called Christianity a Tiphereth faith. It's not for nothing that Michelangelo used Apollo Belvedere's face when he painted Jesus inside the Sistine Chapel along with the rest of his biblical scenes. Christ is the soul of the world and the soul inside of you. It's the strongest light of the world, as the sun is the strongest light of the solar system, both the one we live in and the one that lives inside of us, because we are all a solar system with its own sun burning at its center. The reason why most Christians are not deserving of the designation Christian is because their connection to Christ is a little more than a belief in their head that was instilled when they were children out of their priest and parents' own indoctrinated fear that they won't go to heaven unless they profess their faith in Jesus as their Lord and Savior. A belief that comes from the Christian prosecutor Paul, who Jesus' own brother James denounced. It's because of this dishonest association that most Christians have that Nietzsche said that the last Christian who lived died on the cross. You don't become Christ-like by having a fear-induced belief in your brain that you regurgitate like a trained parrot wanting a reward. You become Christ-like by peacefully and truthfully aligning with your own heart and soul and shining your light with no motive save to give generously of yourself as the sun does. And yet how many of us had our lights dimmed from when we were small children by a society that wants to mold us into little society slaves instead of encouraging us to actualize the fullness of our splendor. No wonder why most people are unhappy. They're not being themselves. They're not shining as themselves, but are pretending to be what the hive mind tells them to be. Whether we are talking about culture, capitalism, religion, whatever. How many people are truly themselves? To be who you really are, you have to enter Christ mode, not the crises mode that most people are in. To quote Henry David Thoreau, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. It wasn't just the vampires that sought to take Sami's soul, but his father and the faith too. In the end, Sami handed his soul over to neither, because either membership would have been the subsumation into hive mind groups that would have killed his individuality and true self. We are here to sing our song, not to be a mouthpiece of a collective. Sami sang his song. Will you sing yours? Do you, as Stack said to old Sammy, still got the real in you? Thank you for watching.